We are here at the monument and where Cornstalk now lays. There's also a plaque here that I will read to you. It says, Chief Cornstalk, in this monument rests the remains of K2Kwa, better known as Cornstalk to the early settlers and frontiersmen. Chief Cornstalk was well known and respected by the white settlers and Indian tribes of the Ohio Valley. As chief of the Shawnees and head of the Northwestern Confederated Tribes, Cornstalk decided to make peace with the white man. However, he was forced to lead the attack on the Long Knives at the Battle of Point Pleasant on October 10, 1774. Although he survived the battle, he was murdered 3 years later by soldiers at Fort Randolph. This is Navajo Grandma, Yat Eitanema Sananishnaim in West Virginia, and here in Point Pleasant and if you see behind me is the final resting place of Cornstalk. This is from the Dictionary of Biography, and I'm going to read this as fast as I can, but you need to hear this. I cannot say it as eloquently as this, and it is a story, so sit back. Cornstalk died 10 November 1777. Shawnee leader whose Indian name was variously rendered in colonial records as Comblade, Kuleskwa, Hokoleskwa, K2Kwa, K2Kwe, Semakwan, and Tanambuk, may have been a son or grandson of the Shawnee leader Paxinosa, a man known to be friendly to the British. During the first half of the 18th century, Paxinosa's band lived at various locales in present-day Pennsylvania. Little is known of Cornstalk's life, in part because of a general confusion about the historical antecedents of the Shawnee before the mid-18th century, by which time most Shawnee dwelt on the banks of the Scioto River in what became the state of Ohio. As the British colonists expanded, both Virginia and Pennsylvania claimed the Ohio country and formed distinctive policies towards its Native American inhabitants. The French also made a presence in the area until the end of the 7 Years' War in 1763. There are undocumented reports that Cornstalk led raids into the Virginia frontier on behalf of the French during that war. He was also said to have led several attacks on settlers in the Greenbrier region during Pontiac's Rebellion 1763 to 1764. The earliest documented reference to Cornstalk is in the record of the Peace Conference, November 1764, at which Henry Bouquet, a British colonel, held him and 5 other hostages at Fort Pitt to ensure the Indians' cooperation. Cornstalk soon escaped and remained a powerful advocate of peaceful relations between Indians and whites. The years after that conference witnessed periodic violence and acts of retaliation by both sides. 25 April 1774, the royal governor of Virginia, John Murray, 4th Earl of Dunmore, called out the militia of several western counties and defended the frontier settlements from the Indians. Dunmore's action led to an escalation of violence against friendly Indians as well. On 30 April, a party of whites killed several peaceable Mingos, including a woman at Yellow Creek, and infuriated Mingos set out to avenge the deaths, aided by sympathetic members of other tribes. There is evidence that Cornstalk sought to avert open warfare and preserve the neutrality of the Shawnee. Through emissaries, he assured Dunmore that the foolish young people who desired war were under control, and he sent word to John Connolly, Dunmore's representative at Fort Pitt, which Colony called Fort Dunmore, that he would restrain his warriors until he learned the governor's intentions. Cornstalk also directed 3 men, including his brother Silverhills, to escort British traders to the Ohio Valley back to the safety of Pittsburgh. Acting under Dunmore's authority, Connolly sent a party of militia after the departing Shawnee. Silver Hills was shot and wounded. As the Shawnee prepared for war, Dunmore led an army southwest from Pittsburgh to rendezvous with a militia force of 1,100 men commanded by Colonel Andrew Lewis, marching toward the Ohio River from the east. Just before sunrise, 10 October 1774, two of Lewis's men encountered a combined force of Delaware, Mingos, Shawnee, Wyandot, and others waiting at the mouth of the Kanawha River near Point Pleasant. One escaped to warn the other Virginians. At sunrise, the Indians under Cornstalk's command attacked. Several Virginians identified the loud, clear voice of Cornstalk, encouraging his men through the battle. After several hours of intense fighting and heavy casualties on both sides, the Indians fell back, using the swampy terrain to cover their retreat. Having prevented the Virginia armies from launching an invasion of the Scioto, Cornstalk approached Dunmore and asked for peace in order to protect the Shawnee villages. Some of Cornstalk's warriors and other chiefs wanted to continue to fight, which Cornstalk replied that they might as well kill their women and children before fighting to the death themselves. He agreed to terms with Dunmore later that month in the Treaty of Camp Charlotte, through which the Shawnee returned white prisoners and property and ceded hunting rights in Kentucky. Cornstalk was reported to have spoken eloquently at the peace talks and to have insisted that the whites share the blame for inciting the violence. Lewis's son later wrote that his father recalled that Cornstalk was the most dignified-looking man, particularly in council, he ever saw. Despite persistent bitterness on both sides of what later historians called Dunmore's War, Cornstalk evidently adhered to the treaty and continued to advocate nonviolence. He championed neutrality when the Revolutionary War began, even though other Native American leaders allied themselves with the British in hopes of dislodging American settlements from the Western country. Cornstalk took part in conferences with Connolly at Fort Dunmore, July 1775, and with commissioners appointed by the House of Burgesses that autumn. In the spirit of neutrality, he and Red Hawk, a Delaware, approached Fort Randolph at Point Pleasant in October 1777. According to one account, Cornstalk warned the American officers that most Indians were inclined toward the British, and that despite his own desire for peace, he and his tribe would have to run with the stream. In an attempt to ensure Shawnee neutrality, Captain Matthew Arbuncle detained Cornstalk and his companions as hostages. On 10 November 1777, while Cornstalk's son, Elini Pisiko Alanawisika, was visiting the fort, Indians shot and killed a soldier nearby. A vengeful mob quickly formed, and despite Arbuncle's orders, the enraged men stormed Cornstalk's cabin. They shot everyone inside and killed Cornstalk, his son, and two other Indians. The bodies of the other Indians were taken and dumped into the Kanawha River, but Cornstalk's corpse was buried near the fort on Mount Pleasant, overlooking the junction of the Kanawha and Ohio rivers. Here he remained in many years, but he would not rest in peace. Governor Patrick Henry denounced the murders and offered a reward for apprehension of the killers. In the spring of 1778, James Hall and three other men were separately examined in the Rockbridge County Court, which then had jurisdiction over all that portion of Western Virginia, on suspicion of being responsible. No witnesses appeared to testify against any of the men, however, and the court found them, guess what, not guilty. 1 week after Hall's acquittal, he took the oath of office as a captain in the county militia. Cornstalk's known surviving relatives included his sister, Nanhalima, also known as the Grenadier Squaw, and a son named Kutamawa, or the Wolf. Cornstalk was buried near Fort Randolph. After builders accidentally unearthed his presumed grave in 1840, the remains were moved to the grounds of the Mason County Courthouse. In 1954, they were moved again to Tuende Way State Park on the site of the Battle of Point Pleasant, which is right here behind me. I had to read that to you because I could not speak that. He is my brother, and I salute his dignity. And I pray that all of you will remember who these great chief warriors were, warrior chiefs, and what they stood for. They were full of leadership ability. They were full of peace and love for their people, for the land. They wanted to remain, but they were removed. That is what has been happening to every tribe forever and ever. And I pray that we will have respect for what we have, for our land. And when they are taking your land, do not stand still. You have Tecumseh, you have Cornstalk, you have Sitting Bull, you have Pow Pow No, you have every different tribal chief who became a warrior, who stood and said no. Now you stand and say no. Do not let this happen, which is happening right now, from here and in and out, till our Savior returns. They're stripping you of everything. Your land, your water, your right to pray, your right to remember how important it is, Father Sky, Mother Earth, for the animals who are our family, and the oil, the gas that helps us, these elements that were created for us, the food that we eat. You could carry on and on and on for all the blessings you have. I'm asking you, as Tecumseh said, you can break one twig, but a bundle you cannot break. Let's be that bundle and be the warriors. Stand now. You need to stand and pray always as they did. Fast and pray. Cleanse yourself. This is my wisdom from Navajo Grandma. I'm so thankful that I'm here and that we made it here to see our brother, Chief Cornstalk. I feel so honored to be here. This is holy ground where he is. And look, we're all the river where he fought, and the land that he fought for. It's a shame. And I pray that we will remember to stand for what we believe in, is my prayer. Hagonat from Navajo Grandma.